Good evening, this is N7GES, and welcome to the NCARC TechNet. We meet each Monday evening at this time to discuss technical and other issues related to amateur radio. Always glad to have everybody's participation, and you're welcome to send comments or suggestions to Elmers at NCARC.net. You can join us on this repeater, the 447-275, I believe the 447-750, and on the Echolink at W0UPS-R. So remember, we have our YouTube live feed as well, and that serves also as a repository for past nets that you can look back to as well. Let's start out with check-ins just to see who's there. You can check in at any time through the net, and we'll just take check-ins just to kind of see who's out there and who's a part of the discussion this evening. So, who would like to check in tonight?
Good evening, Kevin. This is N1RDC, Ryan in Loveland. This is Kilo 1 Delta Echo Golf, Mike in Platteville.
Kevin, this is Whiskey 0, Romeo Delta Charlie, Rob, Owl Canyon.
And Kevin, this is Whiskey 0 Alpha Sierra Papa, Terry in Berthoud.
Kevin, good evening. This is N0YLS in Livermore.
Okay. All. Recognizing N0YLS, W0ASP, W0RDC, made a mistypo on that, K1DEG, and N1RDC. Wow, we have all kinds of RDCs here tonight. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to check in this evening?
KA6ETE, Jim, Loveland.
N0EMP, Greg in Fort Collins with K0DBE, Debbie.
This is KE0LCK, the other Mike from Windsor.
This is AE0CF, Ben, Fort Collins. Glad to hear you again, Kevin.
This is AE0GM, George from Berthoud.
Okay. Evening all. AE0GM, AE0CF, KE0LCK, K0DBE, N0EMP, KA6ETE. Thank you all very much. Anybody else this evening?
Sounds like a party. W2, MIC, Park in Loveland.
Good evening, Mark. To MIC, welcome. Last call for the time being. Anybody else? Okay, we'll start who we have, and additional folks are always welcome to check in later on. I know we have listen-only folks as well, and by choice or by license limitations or whatever, so but all are welcome. I want to apologize for last week. I did not have much choice but could not be here, and I am sorry. And the week before when I was ill, and I'm sure Joe filled in there, things are a little bit disorganized as far as schedule is concerned. So tonight, because of not having made good preparations, I'd like to do an open topic tonight, if I may, and I hope that some of you have questions that we can talk about and perhaps answer, or at least provide some discussion. So, open forum. Any questions for the net? We're a bundle of knowledge waiting here for anybody that has questions. And I don't know if Joe did open forum 2 weeks ago or not, so maybe most of the questions got taken care of there. But I'll chatter a bit while people are thinking, in case you come up with other things. And, and that occurs to me, I have a question as well, so I'll pose that in a little bit. Anybody else have questions for the net tonight?
W0RDEC.
Go ahead, Rob.
Now, because we have this similar suffixes to our call signs, how does one go about returning to his original call sign there?
Are you asking changing your call sign or me recognizing you?
Changing my call sign. I'm sorry. I guess I jumped in there before you acknowledged me and I didn't give you my call sign. But anyways, yeah. I'd like to go back to my original call sign, because we do have a couple other very close Romeo Delta Charlies in there.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I don't know that it's absolutely necessary that you do that. Do we have more than one other at this point in time? I'm guessing that at that point, you could apply for a vanity call sign just like you did this time and choose either your old call sign or some other call sign and wait for the response to come back. At least that's my initial thought. Any other comments to that in that area? Okay. Hoping from the silence that means I've hit the nail on the head. I think you don't have to feel obligated to change a call sign just because of the similarities, and my pointing that out certainly doesn't need to make you feel like you have to make a change there. Certainly, you do have at least two figures that are separate, at least there, and that's sufficient to separate the call signs. So it's really up to you. But certainly I don't remember, is there a restriction to how soon you can apply for another vanity call sign? Does anybody know?
Sure, but appreciate the response there, Kevin, and it makes sense to where I would have to go back in and request my old call sign to become my active call sign, so I'll put it back to the primary there. Okay, that sounds logical anyway. I appreciate it. Thanks, and I'll get out of your hair there and let you continue on with the net. Thanks, Kevin. W0RDC.
A complete double. I think it was Dave, LEV. Come again, please.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think there is a requirement that the call sign remain dormant for 2 years before it can be claimed. Not positive, but unless that's changed, that used to be the rule. W0LEV.
Okay. So I would imagine that you can. I guess I haven't done this before, but I think you can check whether a call sign is either claimed or not, and if that is indeed the case, I imagine that call sign will show that it's not available. So. But as I said, consider carefully because it's not desperately necessary. But you chose your call sign for specific reasons, and those are good. And other people chose theirs for specific reasons, and you certainly don't have to feel pressured. Anyhow, but those are your options, and I know that the FCC has things set up so that they work a certain way. So I'm guessing that. Your application process will be fairly clear as to what you can or can't do there. Very good, thank you. Any additional questions?
CK.
CK.
This is KE0LCK. It's a question on a mobile installation in a vehicle. And I was wondering, are there any advantages or disadvantages to running the ground other than back to the battery? If the positive wire goes back to the battery, can the ground go elsewhere to make the circuit complete?
EMP.
This would be a hot topic. EMP, go.
FM, like 2 meter or 440, or are you doing HF?
2 meter and 77 meter.
Yeah, you can use a chassis ground. There's a slight noise reduction if you go straight back to the battery, which can be important on HF sideband. But for FM is a lot more immune to noise, and you can do a chassis ground just fine.
Thank you.
Yes.
LCK, back to net.
And I guess I would have to go further, a tiny bit further, and say that as per previous discussions on this net, it may somewhat depend on your car and your body type and body construction and stuff like that. So just, I suppose, be aware that if you have problems, that might be a reason not to do it. So that would be my only other word of caution on that one, unless somebody feels that that's not necessary. But we've talked a lot about body condition, whether all chassis is well grounded itself, how they've handled that, what the condition of the metals are, and issues like that could still become a problem in some situations. So that's my comment. Any other comments on this? Okay. Very good. Any other questions?
EMP. We had a question on the Elmer's net. A individual, he may not even be a ham, but he contacted our club. He's looking for someone local that can do repair on 1930s vintage tube radios. Well, I guess all radios in the 30s were tube radios. So, 1930s vintage radios. He's looking for repair. And somebody thought there was somebody in Estes Park, maybe, that did that kind of thing. And so we're looking for any information on that.
Okay. Are we talking transceivers or broadcast receivers? Or transceivers or receivers?
I got the impression it was receivers, and not even amateur receivers, but AM broadcast receivers from the 30s.
LEV.
I'm with the call again. I heard you, but I was clearing my throat and missed it.
W0LEV. I can, but prefer not to. I don't know about Estes, but someone who I'm sure would know is W0INK, Virgil.
Okay. I was going to suggest WA5VRL certainly might know as well.
Yep. He's another one.
Monitoring.
Speaking of, good evening, Willis.
RL was in there underneath everybody else.
Lots of doubling going on. Anyway, thought I'd let you know. There's a place in Fort Collins, south of Horsetooth on, I believe, Mason, called University Television, University TV. There's a gentleman that owns that place who is very knowledgeable about overhauling antique radios.
Okay, thanks, N0EMP. I'll pass that on.
WA5VRL Fort Collins clear.
Thank you, Willis. I kind of figured you might have some input on that, and I appreciate that. University TV, that's very interesting. We had our modern-day stereo service there several years back, and they fixed it. So that's very, very interesting. Appreciate that. Good. Any other comments on this subject? Hey, excellent. Other questions, please? Question. We're looking, of course, some of you may have heard NCARC is partnered with a group of us who have embarked on a project to do a special event station at WWV for their 100-year centennial here coming up in October. What would somebody need to work out there near their premises to filter their signals and still be able to receive signals from other stations in a special event station situation like that. Maybe I should just a little more specific. I know that we can do a fair amount of filtering. I know that a person can look up filtering and stuff like that. I guess what I'm wondering is, where would I start? What kind of filtering? How much filtering do you think I'm liable to need to work out there? 80, 40, 20. 10. There was one of the other bands we were looking at in there. Out there near all of their transmitter sites that are going at full power and still make a successful attempt here.
EMP. N0 EMP. We've had a little bit of discussion about this in the board meetings, and James has had some practical experience operating on a lake near WWV. We're thinking that 15 meters, which is 21 megahertz, is going to be difficult because it's near the 20 megahertz signal. 12 meters at 24 megahertz might be difficult. 20 meters at 14 megahertz might be difficult because it's 1 megahertz away from the 15 megahertz signal on WWV. So, of course, those first two bands I mentioned, 15 and 12 meters, aren't really major bands for contesting anyway. 20 meters is, so if you're going to do 20 meters, you're going to need really good filtering, we think, to operate near a high power 15 megahertz transmitter. 80 meters and 40 meters are more removed from the WWV signals, so it should be easier to operate there. Of course, 10 meters would be fine, but this time of the solar cycle, 10 meters is pretty dead. And 0 EMP.
Okay, very good. What sort of filtering are we going to need for those good bands? And let's say considering new modern transceivers.
I don't have any actual product recommendations other than you're going to want an external filter external to your transceiver for the band you're operating on, a bandpass filter. The other one that was really going to be bad was going to be 30 meters because that's 10.1 megahertz, so that's right, that's right next to one of their signals, so that's really close. So that's going to really be hard to do. But 80 and 40 should be pretty good. You might be able to get away with the filtering that's in the transceiver, but with the high RF environment up there, it would be probably good to have an external filter in addition to that, and 0 EMP.
Hey, very good, thank you. Any other comments on this? We had a double. Come again, please.
ASP with a follow-up question.
Hey, ASP, go ahead.
Filters are definitely going to be necessary. It's going to be necessary to keep your receiver from getting into either overload or gain compression. And that's going to be dependent on the specific design of your radio. But another one is the issue of the filter being used for both transmit and receive. Technically, it's probably not needed for transmit, but any such filter would have to handle your full transmit power unless you have a separate transmit output versus receive output.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And yeah, absolutely. Okay, any and that is something that I guess could get overlooked, certainly. So thank you for the caution there. Other comments about this?
NW0U. NW0LEV.
Hey, we had two W0U, is that right?
NW0U, Ron in Fort Collins. Just kind of an out-of-the-box thought is there any way of knowing whether there's a null in the patterns from the antennas where you could locate?
EMP.
EMP?
Yeah, the antennas there, they're vertically polarized, omnidirectional, so there's no null. As an aside, there's been some discussion about maybe this year doing field day at that site, which if we do that, that could give us some advance experience on what's involved in operating at that site.
Just another thought on frequencies, W0LEV.
I was headed back to you there, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, over and above filters, I don't think it wise with the present state of solar activity and being virtually at the bottom between cycles, 23, 24, 24, 25. I don't think it's even worth it addressing anything above 18 megahertz. What is that, 17 meters? Ionosphere is just not going to support it. So I wouldn't even plan for it. Yeah, 80, 40, and 20. W0LEV.
MIC.
MIC?
W2MIC. Kevin, you asked about brands for external filters. I am certain that MFJ has a full range of external filters that will handle at least 100 watts. And without digging in my catalog, I'm pretty sure that DX Engineering also carries a line of external filters.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and I didn't know whether maybe we were even going to have to try to build something of our own for this, or if something commercial would be enough. And I know very little about it, and certainly I know that there are several folks out there, but I just wanted to get a little bit discussion going for my own interest anyway, to know kind of what we might end up running into. Was going to say, Ron, welcome, NW0U. I think I got that right. Yeah, NW0U. Thank you for joining and for the question there. Anything else you had to ask or add tonight?
Actually, I have a question on a different subject when we get to that.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on this topic? All right, this is 7GES with the NCARC TechNet. Ron, NW0U, go ahead.
Well, I'm returning to ham radio activity after many years of being dormant on the bands, and things changed. And so Echolink is a puzzle for me, and my question is, if I tune on to a repeater, how do I know if Echolink is active? Is there any way of detecting that status?
Okay, and I assume you mean, by that you mean, how do I know if it's actually turned on right now, or do you mean how do I know if anybody is listening via Echolink at the time?
Either one, because I don't really understand the whole thing. I gather that it's a way of connecting repeaters via the internet, but how would one know?
Okay. I think that's going to vary depending on the repeater, but I know the Echolink basic system has some way of giving some information back as to connected stations, but that may not be carried through the repeater. And in our case, as far as what you hear on the air, there is no way to know that. Some repeaters do put out a announcement that a certain person has joined via Echolink. This repeater does not, at this point anyway. So, if you're using a radio to access the repeater, there's probably no way for you to know, at least on this machine and probably on others as well, whether anybody is listening via Echolink. Any additional comments or fill-ins on that one? Okay, Ron, does that kind of help a little bit?
Well, it's the answer to the question, so I guess it sort of suggests that you better listen a long time before keying up a repeater, because you might be interfering with something you don't know about. NW0U.
That's a good point, but just remember that if a repeater is connected to another repeater via Echolink and there's a conversation going there, you're going to hear it. So it's really no different than accessing any other channel. When you tune into it, you always want to listen anyway, regardless of it being Echolink or not, to look for activity. But there should not be a situation where you'll hear silence, but there's activity going on that you don't want to cover up. You'll hear it if it's there. Does that help?
Well, that's what I would have expected it to be. However, I have listened to some repeaters where I was only hearing one side of a conversation, and the one side of the conversation was from Europe. So that's why I'm confused about how to know if the repeater is in use in that mode.
That is curious, and I don't have a good answer for that one. And you were sure that that was actually Echolink that was happening that way?
No, I don't know what it was. I don't actually even know what repeater it was. As I run a scanner and I'm listening to lots of different repeaters, and was engaged in something else at the time.
Okay, very good. Well, my thought would be that that would be something non-standard, maybe not even Echolink, but something else, because generally Echolink should work just like a repeater in that if somebody talks on the Echolink side, you'll hear it. If somebody talks on the repeater side, you'll hear it. And if you talk or somebody else talks on the repeater side, the Echolink person will hear it. So there should not be a situation in a normal Echolink situation where you hear only one side of the conversation. Any corrections or fills on that one?
that's good enough. If I hear something strange, I'll take better notes next time. NW0U.
Well, good questions anyway. And there's always the exceptions to the rule. And there's any number of reasons, I suppose, why that could have happened. And it may not have even been Echolink involved. It may have been something else altogether. Even on our local machines, we've had situations where two people will be using crossband or dual band radios. Dual receive radios. One person's broadcasting on one repeater, one broadcasting on the other, but both of them are receiving both repeaters, so they both hear each other. But one side of the conversation's on one repeater, one side's on the other. It doesn't happen often, but once in a while it does, and it's a little mystifying to those that are listening. But it's just a simple matter that people don't quite realize which side of the radio is doing the receiving and which side they're transmitting on, and they just happen to be on different bands, but communicating fine because the radios are receiving both things. So stranger things than that have happened, certainly. Good question. No, generally, and especially at least on this machine, you're always safe to listen, and if it's quiet, you go ahead and use it because there won't be anything happening in the background that you won't hear that's utilizing the repeater. So normal amateur operation should do for that. Thank you. Very good questions. Other questions for the net at this time? Other topics that anybody would like to bring up, discussion anybody would like to have? This is N7GES with the NCARC TechNet. Well, we may have a short net today. We'll give one more try for anybody that has further questions or comments for the TechNet this evening.
GM.
Evening, George. GM, go ahead.
I just have a remark about the WWV situation. You could restrict yourself to operate in the last 5 minutes of every hour.
Okay. What advantage would you? I mean, what are you basing this on?
Well, they used to. It used to be true. I assume it's still true that WWV was silent for the last 5 minutes of each hour.
Okay. I know what you're getting at. And yeah, it's there's a couple of things involved there. First of all, WWV is an AM signal, so whether it's silent or not, there's still a carrier. That carrier is powerful, and it still could block out other signals. Secondly, it's not actually silent. It's always ticking, and there's always is it 100 hertz tone that is pulsing in the lower frequencies, which is a variable length pulse that can be read by equipment to get various information. So it is, although it's not beeping, and of course it is still announcing every minute, but it's not beeping continuously. But there is still a transmission going on, and that could still be disruptive.
Well, in the old days, I grew up in the Washington area, and used to drive by the WWV transmitter on Greenbelt Road, and with my Ford Falcon shortwave receiver, and they were right next to NASA Goddard, who had to make their measurements. They actually put down the transmitter for 5 minutes an hour.
Hey, you were breaking up just a little bit. You said they actually did shut down the transmitter for 5 minutes an hour at that time?
That's what I believe, yes. But I was going to ask the question, since we're not trying to block out a band, in this case, wouldn't a very simple filter that for the spot frequency be enough?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's true, or maybe even a small portion of a band, and that's probably true. Somebody else can set me straight if there's more detail. I think my concern was, since there was so much signal there, would it require something more specialized, or is any good quality filter going to take care of it? And that was kind of where I based my question. Anyone to make an additional comment on that question?
Or ASP?
ASP.
Having worked receivers next to high-power transmitters before, and without specific field tests, I would have to guess that you would need about 30 dB of loss in the filter to be able to operate very near the WWV transmitter.
Okay, cool. It's good to have that figure to go by, and I think that is helpful, especially when looking at things. So I appreciate knowing that. Thank you. Any other comments on this? This is N7GES, the NCARC Tech Net. Incidentally, if you're interested, we do have a website, www.v100.com, that gives more information about it. We'd love to have people know about it. We'd love to have people operate. We're going to need assistance in various areas, and so spread the word that we're planning this, and feel free to be involved once more of the details are out for specifics. And that website will keep you up to date on that. So feel free to jump in on that and take a look at it. Okay. Any other questions for the TechNet? Any topic of this sort?
Is there ASP with another question about the WWV?
Okay, ASP, go ahead.
Any plan within this contest project to actually test reception near the time transmitters and get an answer to something like these questions that have come up? How much filter loss do you need to have in order to operate your receiver?
Yes, M0 EMP.
EMP, go.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, we have a couple of different plans for that. One, of course, was field day. We're planning another test about a month before. I'm guessing before field day even, we probably need to do a bit of testing too, so that we can, even see if field day is an option. So, but yes, that is indeed part of the plan we're setting up here.
Thanks, Kevin. I doubled with you a little bit, but I got your message. I'm able to assist with that if you're interested.
Okay, I thank you very much. I will try to remember to make that mention, but would you mind emailing me that too, just to kind of keep my so I can keep my lists and resources and stuff together, because I know that you've had experience in that area, and that would be good. You have my email, right?
That, Kevin. W0ASP, back to net.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, other questions or comments? Okay. This is N7GES with the NCARC TechNet. I believe we're looking at a close here for the evening. We've had several good questions, and even though we haven't run as long, I think the quality of the discussion is as good as the quantity, and so I appreciate that. I will say at this point that this is going to be the last time I will be here for the TechNet. I'm stepping down with family and home complications that are going to require more of my time and energies. I need to give this up. So I'm sure the net will be continuing, and the board will be working on that. And so stay tuned with the website, both the NCARC website, the TechNet webpage, and the NCARC Wednesday Night Net to get more information on that. It has been a pleasure. I hope that all of you have learned a lot. I have learned a lot. I've enjoyed doing it, and I will miss doing it, but sometimes things have to change. So I wish you all well and happy learning. I will say 73 and close the net at this point and return the frequency to normal use. I do have to leave fairly pretty much right away this evening, so I won't be around to chat. But again, thank you to all, and be ready next week for future TechNet sessions with who NCARC is able to set up with you. Take care all, 73, and the repeater's now open for normal use. This is N7GES 73, and I'm off the air.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.